A lot of people are excited to see you today, Mr. Shaibu. Good morning. And when you say you are the man in charge of the customers and standards, perhaps we should start to drop in those issues that the NERC should be addressing at the moment. And I'm quite sure you're very conversant with the new song that the discos are singing. Is either they are saying MDAs are owing them or individuals are owing them, and they switch off the electricity in the community. Tell us what the NERC is doing, because I know a lot of communities have written petitions to NERC at the moment.
Yeah, thank you, Alede. It's a pleasure, to be here. With respect to, switching off connection and disconnection, we have a regulation that talks to connection and disconnection of customers. You don't arbitrarily go to disconnect a community. And I have to state here too that mass disconnection is illegal. And I mean that word in all its ramification. You are expected to follow certain procedures only when a customer becomes really, really delinquent before you disconnect him. So what we have is, we've received some of those reports and we're working on them. We have presently a estimated billing methodology, because the excuse given by the discourse, of course, is that some of these communities they are being mass billed and they are not metered. So we of course have told them in all instances that if you do that, first and foremost, you get sanctioned, you get, of course, punished for not following the rules. So whenever we receive such complaints, the first instance is, did they follow, the conditions we stipulated in our disconnection regulation? If that is not followed, of course, they are given strict instructions to go and reconnect. We must, state here too that because of the metering situations, you have all sorts of agreements being entered into by communities, electricity, community members, and the extortion of money from, customers. What we expect is, of course, if you have any complaint, we have a three-pronged complaint mechanism built into, the electricity sector now, which is you go to your customer complaints unit. If you are not satisfied, we have forum offices spread all over the country where you can report. The forum office is the appeal aspect of the electricity, sector, where you have customers, picked from within the distribution network, representing all the arms, the manufacturing, the commercial, and the NGOs are represented in the forum office. Of course, you have the Consumer Protection Council too in there, and of course, you have the Nigerian Society of Engineers. This is a body that looks into complaints that are not redressed at the distribution companies level, and they've been effective in those places where customers have approached them to complain about issues, especially with respect to mass disconnection. So the Commission is poised and has always been there to listen to these complaints and to address them as much as we possibly can.
Is it right for because we've seen those who are on the estimated billing platform, they receive bills, I think we've seen the one from Ikeja Disco. So upon dropping that bill, you see that they just stamp it marked for immediate disconnection, and these are bills coming to them for the first time in a month, on a monthly basis. Is that the normal procedure?
Well, that's absolutely not correct. Like I said, there are procedures for production and submission of bills. You have actually a 10-day, it's mandatory, a 10-day window, from which after you are given a bill to go and pay before, you get a disconnection notice. And even when you get a disconnection notice, you are not to be immediately, disconnected. You are to be given a notice, and then, of course, you are given the opportunity to go and pay. So if you have a situation whereby you're given a bill and almost immediately somebody comes, and does their ambush, tactics and knocks you off or threatens you, you have a right to complain first and foremost to the customer complaints unit, and if they don't address your complaints, you move on to the forum office, which is located. Presently, we have forum offices being opened in all state capitals. There used to be one within distribution networks, but we felt that it's necessary, since the distribution companies are not just strictly technical boundaries, they have geographical boundaries too. So you have some distribution company headquarters situated far away from where customers are. So what we have decided to do is to have forum offices, opened in virtually all of the state capitals so that they will be closest to, the customers, and you can take your complaints, whatever it is, to the forum office if the distribution company has not, redressed your complaint. And of course, we have a 15-day window, within the regulation that you can talk with the distribution company so that at the end of the day, your complaints are redressed.
You say that we have, in your words, a metering emergency. But the Ikeja Disco's chief financial officer was quoted in the papers this morning, and he says that estimated billing will be here for a while. It means that people are not going to get meters, prepaid meters, for a while. That doesn't sound like we have a metering emergency. What are we doing differently to tell us that we are actually in an emergency?
Well, basically, I guess probably the Ikeja Disco spokesperson was maybe quoted out of context. I would like to say that because we have built into the MITRE 2015 a mechanism that punishes a distribution company that doesn't meet its particular target. So naturally, of course, what would happen is if come the end of this present tariff regime, the period, the 1 year period, if Ikeja Disco does not meet its metering target, what happens is that it gets less from the market as a direct tariff mechanism. And secondly, we have, like we said, they have performance agreements signed with the federal government at the sales of these companies, and the commission has set up a very robust enforcement unit for now, because before now what we had done was to give some measure of light-handed regulation, but we have stepped up under the leadership of our present acting CEO, Dr. Anthony Aka, an element. So we now have a fully staffed, well-staffed and robust enforcement unit that has, of course, been given some nice letters to the discos. And of course, nice simply means notice of intention to commence enforcement. So metering is key, and it is important to all the discos. So the comment made by the Ikeja, CEO, I believe, was, probably printed, is somehow inconsistent with what actually the position is.
That's the chief financial officer, actually, not the CEO.
Know that the commission does not,
Okay, the chief financial officer.
The financial officer, of course.
About
we don't toil with the issue of metering.
Okay, about CAPME. You said it's wound down November 1st this year. The reasons they didn't latch onto it was inherited, they were collecting monies and not refunding customers. But you didn't tell us, because we have people who say they actually did pay for those meters, and for up to 2 years, they didn't receive their meters nor monies back. What happens to those kind of people now that the program has been wound down?
Thank you very much, Chamberlain. It's important that when you have a complaint, you make it first and foremost, because there's this tendency amongst Nigerians to always keep the complaints to themselves, or tell their neighbors or tell their friends, this is what the company is doing to me. We have a customer complaints handling standards and procedures that says if you have a complaint, it doesn't matter how trivial it is, put it in writing, take it to the office, document it, and get it registered. Every complaint that a customer takes to the distribution company comes back to the regulator at the end of the month. Unfortunately, funny enough, I am responsible for that. So what we do is we analyze all of the complaints that come, from all the discos, throughout the month, and we do it on a monthly basis. So you report, and it is documented.
They have to send a hard copy, mail, or they can't send an email?
Well, they can send email, but you have to have an audit trail for whatever complaint you have. Of course, if the proximity of the customer complaints units to you makes it easy for you to just reach out there, because it's your service provider. He's the nearest person, to you to make complaints to. So if you send such complaints to them, of course, it gets to us. And if it's not redressed, what happens is that we, get back to, the discourse and say, look, this is what we are getting from